So what happens when you think the folks renting your neighborhood are, breaking the rules? We're about to get into a story of one homeowner who decided to take on his condo board and basically put their decisions on trial.
All right, so let me set the scene for you. We're in a pretty small, quiet condo community in Sun City, Arizona. Only 16 units. It's the kind of place where everybody probably knows everybody else's business. But under all that quiet, one resident, a guy named Robert Swinehart, he started getting this feeling that something was, just not right with how his board was running things.
And the accusation? It was pretty simple, but really serious. He was basically saying the board was operating in the shadows, making these big money decisions behind closed doors, spending the community's cash without even asking the homeowners for approval. That's a huge no-no.
So what are you going to do in a situation like that, right? Well, Mr. Swinehart wasn't just going to sit back. He decided to fight. And I mean, he really fought back. He took his own condo board to court. And yeah, this is the story of what happened.
Okay, so this is where it all gets official. Robert Swinehart files a formal grievance, and the battle against the Spanishbrook Condominium Association begins. All right, so before we dive into all the drama, let's just do a quick refresher. What exactly is a condo board? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a mini government, just for your property. These are your neighbors, right? People you elected to manage the money, take care of maintenance, and make sure everyone follows the rules. It's a huge position of trust and a lot of responsibility.
So Mr. Swinehart didn't just have some vague hunch that things were off. Oh no, he came prepared. He filed an official petition with, get this, 13 specific allegations against the board.
Now, we're not going to go through all 13, don't worry, but they basically boil down to a few big categories. First, a total lack of transparency. He accused them of holding these secret meetings. Then there is financial mismanagement, spending money without a vote, hitting people with improper fees. And finally, just ignoring the rules, like refusing to call meetings when they were supposed to and not letting homeowners see the financial records.
Okay, let's zoom in on what was probably the most explosive claim. This one centered on a single really big expense that seemed to blow right past a very, very clear rule.
So the community's own rules, their bylaws, were crystal clear on this. The board could not spend more than $1,000 on a single item unless they got a vote from all the homeowners. That's it. A simple, straightforward rule to keep spending in check. And then there was this. A $2,800 repair bill for the sprinkler system. The board just approved it, all on their own, no vote. I mean, that's almost 3 times their spending limit. So you gotta ask, how on earth did they justify that? Well, their defense was pretty straightforward. They called it an emergency. They argued that the sprinkler system had to be fixed right now to stop major damage to the common areas, and there just wasn't time to get everyone together for a vote. But this is where their whole argument just completely falls apart. Because the judge looked at the board's own letters and found this little gem. It says the system has been losing pressure for the last 3 years. Something that's been a problem for 3 years is pretty much the opposite of a sudden emergency, right? Yeah, the judge was not buying it, not at all. So that seems like a slam dunk for Mr. Swinehart, right? Well, the case wasn't over. There was this other really fascinating twist, and it's all about a situation where the community's own rules actually went head-to-head with Arizona state law. Okay, so check this out. Mr. Swinehart and 4 other owners got together to call a special meeting. That's 5 out of 16 units, which is over 31%. Now, state law says you only need 25% of owners to call a meeting. So, they're good, right? Well, not so fast. The community's own bylaws said you needed a majority, more than 50%. So, who wins? The state law or the local bylaws?
And the answer here is actually pretty surprising. The bylaws won. The judge said that because the community's rule was more restrictive than the state law, that's the one that mattered. And this is a huge takeaway for anyone living in an HOA. Sometimes your own community documents can set a higher standard than the law itself. So on this specific point, the board actually got a pass.
So after all that back and forth, how did the judge decide the whole thing? Let's break down the final verdict. All right, here's the final scorecard. It was kind of a split decision, but the wins for Mr. Swinehart were huge. The judge found the board was definitely in violation for the secret meetings, for overspending on that big repair, and for that improper special assessment. But like we just talked about, they did not break the rules by refusing to call that meeting. But here's where the ruling gets really powerful. The judge didn't just say they were wrong. He used a specific legal term, void ab initio. It's a fancy Latin phrase that means void from the beginning. And what that means is
Legally, it's like those secret decisions never even happened. Poof, gone.
So what did that actually mean in the real world? Well, first, every single decision they made in those secret meetings was just gone. Wiped clean. The board was told they had to go back and do it all over again. Reconsider the sprinkler repair, the special assessment, everything. But this time, out in the open. On top of that, the association got hit with a $500 fine and this is great, they had to pay Mr. Swinehart back for his $550 filing fee.
When you boil it all down, this whole case was really about one thing: following the rules. It wasn't even just about the money. The big lesson here is that by failing to follow the basic procedures for open meetings and proper voting, the board made all of its most important actions legally meaningless. It's a perfect example of why those boring procedural rules matter so much.
And that really leaves us with one final question, especially for anyone out there living in a condo or a community with an HOA. This whole story brings up a really important point. Do you actually know the rules that govern your community? Because if there's one thing we learned from Mr. Swinehart's fight, it's that knowing the rules is the only way you can make sure everyone is playing by them.